So, Alex, tell me, what's your worst sleep training collision?
I don't know.
What about that time that we had booked for a race and you forgot to set the alarm?
What race are you talking about? I don't remember.
The historic McKinney half, the first time it was running.
Wasn't that wait, that was not long ago.
It was this just gone March.
Just gone March? You mean it was in March?
Yeah.
I don't know what just gone March means.
The March that just went.
Okay, so yes, I remember that now. And you're right, I did forget to set the alarm. I had forgotten about, but you didn't set an alarm. So.
Because you religiously set alarms, so I trusted you, and then we both overslept.
So the moral of the story is that when there's a race, both people should set alarms.
Yes.
What's your worst sleep training collision story?
I mean, I generally sleep really badly before races anyway, especially if I'm staying in a hotel. But I've learned that it actually doesn't really impact my race that much as long as I've slept well the week before.
Yeah, that's right. Recently, I've actually slept pretty well before races, oddly. I don't know why. Maybe we've done so many of them, it just becomes like old hat.
I think it's okay if you're at home. I sleep really bad in a hotel, but I sleep bad in a hotel anyway.
That makes sense. There you go. By the way, guess what? We've got new music for the podcast. So, yeah, shout out to Federico on Fiverr for making us some custom theme music for Practically Fit. Check it out.
Welcome to Practically Fit, Real Fitness Over 40. I'm Abbie.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're talking about sleep. I love my bed, but this is not an ode to my beautiful mattress. And I do love my mattress. It's rather a focus on why sleep matters for fitness and health, and what, if anything, changes as you age. We obsess over pace, heart rate, and training plans, especially us runners. But the recovery variable most of us ignore is sleep.
Yeah, that's right, Abbie. So today we're going to talk about the land of Nod, what the science says about it, what we have experienced, and how we should practically think about sleep as part of our fitness routine.
But first, it's time for Alex's favorite segment, the warm-up.
Yeah, check it out. New bumpers. You like those new bumpers with our new theme music? Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool.
Should I rap again to start?
No, please don't.
To warm up?
Please don't. I had 75 complaints about it.
Okay, well, that's fine. We'll dive right in. We got a few articles to get to today. Actually, I think it's just a couple. The first one is from USA Today, and it's focused on nutrition. It says low-fat dairy may not be as beneficial after all, a new study finds. Quote, all those years of reaching for the skim and fat-free options in the milk and cheese aisle may not have been the heart-healthy move we once thought, according to a new study. Abbie, do you...
I hate skim milk. It just tastes like water. There's no point.
But don't you...
I do drink 2%, which I genuinely like.
Well, but I was thinking about the yogurt, too. Don't you eat low-fat yogurt? Or like zero-fat yogurt?
I do, but like it's high protein.
Faye or Fage?
Fage.
Fage.
Fage is my favorite. I would do like Chobani too.
Well, in this study, they looked at low-fat dairy, and so they actually assigned 74 overweight people to one of three diets. This was kind of confusing when we read it, the way they constructed this study, but all three diets did contain dairy. One was a low-calorie and low-dairy diet. One was an energy-neutral diet, eating as many calories as needed to stay neutral in terms of weight, so no gain and no loss. And one was unrestricted with 3 servings of full-fat dairy. And after they conducted this study, there was not a difference in weight gain or body composition across all 3 groups. And this was in a span of 12 weeks. And in fact, the article says, quote, the groups that consume more dairy saw improvements in blood pressure and had higher intake of calcium, protein, and vitamin D. So more dairy and your blood pressure was better. I guess I should just be eating lots of full-fat dairy, except for...
No, you're lactose intolerant, so that's a bad idea.
Right. But this is really fascinating. The lead of the study, Dr. Harvey Anderson from the University of Toronto, said, quote, those who had 3 servings of dairy didn't have adverse levels of blood cholesterol or lipids or evidence of insulin resistant. So there's been other recent research too, in addition to this study, that's shown that full-fat milk, cheese, and yogurt may not be as bad for your heart as previously thought, which I find exciting because I love cheese.
Yeah, I love cheese too. Interesting. Although 74 doesn't feel like a very big study group.
Yeah, but it was well, as long as it's scientifically done and there's the proper controls. I mean, it's promising.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's interesting. I feel like we go in these cycles of like fat is bad for you, butter is bad for you, then margarine got introduced, and margarine is bad for you. Like, so it's interesting all of these secular ways that we move in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, based on whatever the latest study is. And the one that really got me previously was eggs, because you used to hear like, don't eat.
Well, I think that was after all of the salmonella and everything, right?
No, but people were really focused on not eating the whole egg and just eating egg whites. Like if you ate the yolk, protein. It was bad for you. But now they're back to like, you can eat the yolk. It's good for you, and it's good for your good cholesterol. So yeah, like you say, I find these studies very confusing because every few years it's something that we thought was bad for us is now good for us. So there you go. Full-fat dairy may not be as bad for your heart as previously thought.
I'm glad of that because I had a full-fat latte earlier today.
There you go. Well, next article from USA Today as well. And this goes back to a theme that we discussed last week, and I wanted to bring it back because it was so much fun. And we mentioned something about this trend. We had seen something about analog backpacks, and this article dove into it. It said, Gen Z is having an analog summer, and they're obsessed with this item, which is the analog bag. Do you know what an analog bag is? I know we talked about it a bit last week.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. It's like a backpack or a tote bag that you fill with non-electronic devices. So things like you said last week, Alex, knitting or maybe coloring books or journals.
Paperback books, mini watercolor palettes. And this trend is taking over TikTok and Instagram.
Hilarious.
Yeah. What the article says, content creator Sierra Campbell coined the term in a TikTok last year about tips to lower screen time, and it's been spreading on social media since. So I just have to ask, well, let me read this other quote from the article. Quote, even though the point of the trend is to get offline, what's my analog bag videos with bouncy animated text, soft typing sound effects, and curated sticker overlays have racked up tens of thousands of views. So just the whole concept seems to be somewhat paradoxical. You're really excited about these analog backpacks, and you're posting
can't get your
about
message
them
to people if you don't put it on TikTok, babes. It doesn't even exist.
It doesn't exist if it's not on TikTok or Instagram. So racking up the likes on your analog backpack videos.
Also, like, these things are like, I mean, how much support do I need to figure out what to put in an analog bag?
Well, there's all kinds of different ideas. Like,
I know,
it
but
could be anything.
I know, but I don't need to watch 15 different videos from TikTok creators. Kind of just come up with that myself. I feel like this stuff, it's like what I eat in a day. Like, there's so many videos of people of like what I eat in a day.
Or my morning routine.
Oh, my morning routine. Yeah.
The bags, in addition to some of the items we've mentioned, they can contain puzzles. They can contain physical calendars and other, quote, whimsical items.
What are the whimsical items, babe?
Well, I think that part of it has to do with decorating, but I presume...
Ooh, I love a sticker, though.
The whimsical items would be like, squishy toys or, kind of...
Stickers.
Stickers. It could be anything.
Sniff and scratch stickers.
And apparently to be really up on this trend, you have to have the LL Bean boat and tote. that has emerged as the bag of choice.
Well, that's the same as this thing about like the Trader Joe's bag has gone viral across Europe, like the Trader Joe canvas tote.
We used to order stuff from LL Bean when I was a kid, and I can tell you it was not viewed as popular. Like, I would not want to be seen wearing something from LL Bean in my high school.
Ooh, I've got a really nice LL Bean hoodie.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's interesting to me that like LL Bean is now trending. It's kind of similar to Carhartt and how that's been embraced in with younger folks. So the LL Bean boat and tote is really popular. People are embroidering it with everything from their initials to phrases like self-care, because when you're wearing this analog bag, you need to advertise that it's for your self-care. You need the world to know that. You can't just possibly have the bag and walk around with it. The bag has to make a statement. I get it. We were all young once.
Yeah.
The company says sales are up more than 50% this year on this bag. And the best-selling month for the product occurred this spring. And they've even launched a limited edition bag monogrammed with analog and off the grid. Also,
that's smart. That's smart by LL Bean.
Well, yeah, get in on it now.
Monetize it.
You're not going to be this popular for a long time. The other thing that I found was interesting from this article, sales of Walkmans. And I don't know if that means, I guess that means
remember we talked about this last week.
Yeah, they're up 110%.
Wow. Yeah, one of the kids asked me if I had a Discman, and I was like, oh, I'm older than that. I actually had a Walkman.
Yeah, well,
that was the cassette version.
You know, when I moved in with you, I had so many DVDs and CDs. I thought,
I actually don't think I shipped my CDs to the US because I was like, we had a shipping container and we could only fit so much in, and so I think I actually got rid of my CDs at that point. And I was kind of gutted because I had so many. Like, it would be cool to kind of just even look back through them.
Yeah, well, I got rid of mine. I wish I hadn't have gotten rid of all of those because apparently they're popular now. So,
well, you, in fact, you bought a DVD player and was like, and now we have 2 DVDs.
Yeah, that's because I wanted to show you this one show and it wasn't available anywhere else. And I thought that would be a good investment. So maybe we'll just go completely analog, no more streaming.
But it's still electric because it's still a TV.
But it's analog.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, well, that's the new trend, and that's it for today's warm-up. All right, so let's transition now to talk about our main subject today, which is sleep. We'll talk about some of the different aspects and dimensions surrounding sleep, including the science behind sleep, especially as we age. And an important thing to start off talking about is that the fact of the matter is deep sleep and REM sleep naturally decline with age. So sleep gets lighter and more fragmented even in healthy adults, which is why we have more trouble sleeping now, I guess, as we're into our 40s and 50s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I hadn't really thought about REM sleep, but I guess, are we dreaming less? Have you noticed that?
Well, I think that's really hard to know yourself, right? Because like some people will remember their dreams, some people do not. But I definitely resonate with sleep getting lighter and harder to get back to sleep than when I was younger. If I wake up more often and it's harder to get back to sleep.
I'm a light sleeper, and I try to eliminate.
Oh my God, more on that later.
That stops me from getting sleep or fragmenting my sleep. But I do. If I have like vivid dreams, or if I even wake up from a dream, which I did this morning, like that's usually a sign to me that I've slept pretty well. Like we talked about sleep scores before. My sleep score was over 80 today, and I had like very vivid dreams last night. So I thought that was pretty interesting fact. But this also matters for athletes, and that's because sleep is when your body repairs and recovers itself. Deep sleep is when growth hormone is released for tissue repair, and that phase becomes especially important for older athletes since growth hormone naturally declines with age. So that's a really important thing to know about sleep. It continues to be important if you're somebody who undertakes a lot of fitness activities on a daily basis. It's also important to know that fragmented sleep can really impact you. Like in some cases, fragmented sleep, if you sleep for a longer time, but it's fragmented, that can be worse than short sleep because you can log 8 hours of sleep and still wake up undercooked if you woke up consistently throughout the day.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the opposite too, where maybe my sleep has been shorter, but I felt like I slept really hard, and that feels better than, like you said, getting 8-9 hours of interrupted sleep.
I mean, how do you think your sleep now compares to when you were in your 20s and 30s?
Oh my God. In my 20s, especially, I could fall asleep pretty easily. In fact, one time at university, I fell asleep at a party next to the loudspeaker.
Oh, wow. I've never been able to sleep like that.
I was super tired. I had been like working on a production. I did theatre, so I'd been working like loads of hours. I was just exhausted at this party. Fell asleep next to the loudspeaker. It was pretty huge too. But now, like I said earlier, I normally can get off to sleep pretty well. The only time I've really struggled with that is times when I've had stress, or when I was pregnant the second time. I really struggled to sleep then. But now I do have to have the room at a good temperature, and you like no light, I like no noise, and then I fall asleep and inevitably wake up in the middle of the night needing to pee.
Right, yeah, which that happens to me a lot as well. With men, that is a thing that you have to watch, right? Like, how often are you getting up in the night? Can be related to prostate health and things of that nature. And I just, in general, don't like light coming in. So, one of the most annoying things for me is we're upstairs, the kids are upstairs, and they go down after we've gone to sleep to get a snack or something, and they turn on the light in the hallway, and there's just like beaming under the door.
It makes it sound like it's so bright.
It is
really
bright.
Not.
It impacts me. I could use I could stuff a towel under the door and be happy. I don't like lights from TVs or alarm clocks or anything. I like it to be dark. That's really important.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit more later. I've got some fun stories to share.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask you on this is, when you were younger, were you able to sleep on an airplane? I mean, because you said you fell asleep next to a loudspeaker, so.
I honestly can't remember. When I was younger, we really traveled mostly in a car for holidays, so I didn't really get on an airplane until I was probably in my teens.
Okay, but I mean in your 20s and 30s, because we're talking about how has it changed since then.
I think airplanes are different for me though, because I suffer a bit with travel sickness, so it's kind of a bit of a different dimension for me.
Yeah, I've never been able to sleep on an airplane. That is a goal of mine in life, to sleep on an airplane.
Okay, let's move on to a second topic area, which is sleep as a hidden dimension. And I thought this was really interesting, Alex, because sleep can be one of the last things that we look at. We look at all kinds of data, right? I know that we track our paces, our heart rate, our steps, the amount of intensity minutes we do a week, all kinds of stuff. And for many people, sleep can be a variable that they just don't track or pay attention to, while it's a really important part of your performance. So thinking about that, I was interested about sleep trackers and your perspective, Alex, of whether you think they're useful or do they have a dark side where they backfire?
I think it could just depend on your personality and how obsessed you get with data. For me, the anxiety in introducing some new data point, same with HRV. Mm-hmm. As you know, I got a watch that does HRV now several months ago, and I immediately was like, oh my gosh, my HRV is so low. And then I did more research into it to understand that yes, yours may be low, but it varies from person to person. It's a very unique measure, right? And subsequently talked to several people who had low HRVs who are in great shape. So it's when you introduce a new data point into your monitoring regime, it can be stressful, especially if you're somebody who has like health-related anxiety. So when I first started wearing my watch all the time, it was a little bit stressful, but now I really have come to appreciate the sleep data, and I think it's very useful in telling you potentially when you do need to take a break, or kind of looking at the trends there if they're getting worse. Okay, it's time. I probably need to have, as you would say, a lie-in on the weekend or something to catch up. I've found the data to be really useful, and it really doesn't induce anxiety in me these days.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really useful. And I actually think it can help with some of those more complex elements like heart rate variability. I've found that if I don't sleep well, I get worse on my heart rate variability.
Right.
So there's definitely a relationship between those. I think one of the things that, and I don't find it anxiety inducing at all, I just find it interesting, is sometimes I wake up and I think I've had a great night's sleep and my score is lower than I expect it to be, and vice versa. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel like I slept horribly, and my watch will be like 85.
Yeah,
Like,
what? I don't think it's 100% reliable, and I think there are some times when the data that it gives you is probably inaccurate. And like, we've had times recently where I was like, wow, I slept amazingly, and it's like 75 or something. And to your point, the other night you were up half the night and said you had an 85, because it's just for you, I think you have such a low heart rate and you're lying there, potentially it just thinks you're sleeping.
Yeah,
I don't know.
True, that's true.
So yeah,
if I'm not moving around a lot, maybe it's like, well, she didn't move. And I mean, I guess that's also a good point. Like, you're still resting. Like, even if I remember when I did have a little period of struggling to sleep, the health practitioner said to me, it was when I was pregnant, she said, like, resting is important. Like, don't be getting anxious about not being able to sleep, and like just lie in bed and rest, or change your environment and then go back to sleep. So I think that's really interesting too. Like, it's still monitoring that rest bit for you. But what about our competitive sleep score comparison?
I think we mentioned this at the end of last week's podcast when we were previewing this topic, but almost every day, I would say one of the first things we text each other when I get to work is like, what was your sleep score? And yeah, I almost never beat Abbie on the sleep score.
You did today.
Which I did today, which was surprising. So,
oh, what's surprising?
Yeah, and I felt tired all day, honestly. So it's like I slept too well.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think I probably struggled last night because I did a run yesterday morning, and that really wiped me out. And I napped yesterday afternoon, which I never do. Like, I never nap during the day. I'm not a napper. So I wonder whether that was something about it. But yeah, we like to compare sleep scores. Have you ever got 100?
No, never.
One of the people one of my friends that I work with, she regularly gets up into the 90s, up to 100. And I was like, how? I very occasionally get over a 90, but that's been pretty rare.
You know, the only time I've ever gotten over a 90?
When?
It was when we went to
Jet
visit.
lag.
Yeah, it was when we went to visit your family. And, you know, we fly over, typical flight from Dallas to London. It's like 8.5 hours on the way there. You get there, it's early in the morning. You have to get out, go through immigration, get your bags, which can take some time at Heathrow. Then you have to take a bus over to the car rental place, and then get a car, and then drive out of Heathrow, which is, you know, it's not in the middle of London for those who haven't been to London, but it's on the edge and there's a lot of traffic. So you have to drive out of there on the wrong side of the road if you're me driving. Sometimes it's Abbie, sometimes it's me. Point being, then we drive basically, 100 miles for a couple of hours to your mom's house. And so at that point, you've been traveling a long time and you're tired. And you always tell me like, oh, we need to stay up.
Oh, that's true. Get on the time zone.
Yeah, that doesn't work very well. But there was a time we went and I just crashed. And I don't think I woke up the next morning till like 11 a.m. But that was like, I didn't even wake up in the night to pee. Like, it was crazy. Like, that was the only time I ever had above a 90.
Well, really, the point of having those trackers is so that you can start especially as an athlete or somebody who's into fitness, is so that you can start looking at sleep as a training input and treat it in the same way as you're treating your workouts and other things that you're putting into training, similar to fuel or shoes or anything else. So I do think it's really interesting to think about that. And like you said earlier, Alex, we've started to recognize when the sleep data is telling us something like overtraining, or, maybe it's not a good idea to do this workout that I had planned today. So just thought it was really interesting to think about it as not as an afterthought, but as an element that you bring in and think about it as performance. So in particular, looking at that like feedback loop between exercise and sleep. And one of the things that we were talking about the other day is about the timing of your workout and then the impact that might have on sleep. So when we moved to the run streak recently, we pretty consistently did our workouts in the morning, right, Alex? We pretty consistently did the run in the morning because it's hot here, and getting up first thing in the morning versus the evening workouts. I naturally prefer working out in the evening. It just feels nicer to my body because I like the fact that my body's got used to the day and I'm not working out all of the kinks. But summer, early morning versus our evening runs. But we're really noticing that if we do our run at like 7, 8 p.m., the impact it has on sleep, right?
Yeah, especially when it's hot, or if it's like, I know there have been times where we've done like really hard interval sessions on the track. We get home at like 8:30 right after it's dark. And at that point, you're only going to be up for a couple more hours. And if I've done like a really hard, say I've done like 400-meter repeats on the track or something even more intense, it takes a while for my heart rate recovers pretty quickly, but it takes a while for it to get back down to like a normal resting heart rate, in the sense of like it might still be, 10 to 20 to 30 beats elevated in the evening compared to where it normally is, because my heart rate's pretty low as well. So, it's those types of workouts I think definitely impact you, and you can see that in that sleep and heart rate data.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think the other one is, as I said earlier, if you have a really terrible night's sleep and then push through and do your hard session because the plan says so. I've done that a couple of times and just lived to regret it. I was like not rested enough to push through that workout sensibly. And I think it's really knowing when it's like when you're in that space versus when you're just feeling a bit sluggish, and actually a workout will help you wake up and feel good. So it was interesting. I found a study that supported some of this, a large 2025 Monash University study.
Wait, is that a real university? That doesn't sound real. Monash.
I don't know. I found the study. It had 4 million nights of data. And they found that exercising within 4 hours of bedtime was linked to falling asleep later, worse and shorter sleep, and higher resting heart rate with lower heart rate variability. So some of the things that we were talking about earlier. And the more strenuous the workout, the bigger the disruption. So a little to your point earlier, Alex. So it was a pretty big sample, fairly recent, and definitely links into our evening runner history. Interestingly, the same research team found that exercise bouts ending more than 4 hours before sleep onset showed no association with sleep disruption. So it's not you can never run like late afternoon, evening. It's the buffer before bed, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and I've noticed it this summer too, because we did the run streak, like you mentioned, and we were doing typically morning workouts. And even here just lately, we have not done an intense run outside on the track in the evening. Anything we've done intense in the evenings, we've done it at the gym indoors, whether it's on the indoor track or the treadmill. And so we've done that earlier in the evening.
Yeah.
And it's definitely made a difference this summer. Like, I haven't had that experience of, to this study's point, like, to me, this is dead on because this lines up with our real life experience. And just notice that this summer, in opposition to the last few summers where we've done those types of workouts pretty routinely.
Yeah, no, I agree. We did one last week, right, at the gym, and we worked out around about 6 p.m.
Yeah, slept fine.
Slept brilliantly that night. So, and I did a hard interval workout.
I just ran a mile as fast as I could on the treadmill. So that was challenging. And yeah, I felt great that night because you had that 4.5 hours before you went to bed. Let's take kind of a gendered look at this. His versus hers, sleep into our 40s and beyond. What's changed as we move into our 40s? Really, it's biological and age-related shifts that impact sleep. And so the most obvious of these, we're talking about his and hers, and that's because there's perimenopause and menopause for women. And then I'm a bit embarrassed to say it, but I learned a new word when we did the research on this episode, andropause for men. I am 45 years old, and I had not heard the term andropause. Thanks for educating me on something new, Abbie. But both menopause and andropause mess with your sleep architecture.
Yeah, so I'm going to take her side, predictably. As you said, Alex, there's a lot of information out there and experience for us women in terms of how perimenopause and menopause impact sleep. And I think it's one of the biggest areas that women suffer with as they go through the transition, and especially given the transition fully through menopause can take years. And so you're having that impact cumulatively over that period of time. So obvious common ones are night sweats, insomnia, and that hormonal link to core body temperature regulation. And I must say, I haven't had night sweats, but I'm definitely much more sensitive to heat than I was when I was younger.
You're always saying, I'm hot. I'm making you hotter.
He is hot. But if I don't have a room around about the right temperature, and it doesn't have to be like a perfect temperature, but as soon as it gets up above a certain temperature, I get really uncomfortable. So definitely, I think there's a real impact. The other thing that I've had lately is itching and then restless legs. And so those keep you awake because then you're suddenly all of my body is itching uncontrollably. It's so frustrating.
Do you want to talk about your sleep barriers that you create?
Well, that's because my hip hurts sometimes. So I'm just, I create a sleep barrier because Alex is hot. He makes me hot. So then I put a pillow between us as a barrier. Or I can fold the sheet down and create a little sheet barrier between us. Because as long as his body temperature is not leaking onto me.
It's bad in the summer too. One of the days this week, I saw the low temperature in Dallas where we live is supposed to be 85. The low temperature. So
yeah, and
house doesn't cool off.
No, and that particular night, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I'm so hot. I'm so hot and so uncomfortable. I got up to go to the bathroom, came back and was like, oh my God. And then Alex said, oh my God, it's so hot in here. That's when we realized that our air conditioning had broke. So I was at least glad that I wasn't going into super night sweats.
My problem in the summer too is I don't like sleeping with just a thin sheet. I like to have a blanket or some kind of substantial cover on me when I sleep. I guess it psychologically must make me feel more safe or something. I don't know, but we did recently have a night where the comforter was dirty or something, and we slept with it. I actually slept well with just the sheet. I was surprised.
So well that night. But yeah, that's a good point. When we go back to England, my mum loves the duvet, and I find them a little bit hot. So I think there's a lot around, that temperature regulation. I know I've talked about this with my friends who are a similar age and different things that help. Definitely think timing of exercise again is a good one because obviously you're going to raise your body temperature, especially if you're doing something like running, something heavy cardio. And like you mentioned earlier, Alex, it takes a while for everything to reset back. So if you've raised your body temperature and then you're trying to go to sleep, or if you have a super hot bath, even though a bath can be relaxing before bed, if I get too hot in a bath, it takes a long time for me to cool down. So just thinking about those things, I do find it good to have the room at a good temperature. But I also think that there's just a lot of like noise for women about like things that can help, like supplements and all this different type of stuff to support with menopause. And we could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. So what do the experts say? Like, what's the best thing women can do to help with the sleep disruptions caused by menopause?
Well, they talk about all different kinds of things, of different supplements to take, different, like I said, thinking about when you exercise, the timing of things, like looking at cooling products and cooling pads and all that kind of stuff. I think I think you have to try things out and find out what works for you. But a lot of it is just noise. But I did find a really interesting couple of studies that I wanted to go into and share. There was a 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis, which concluded that exercise interventions can be recommended to menopausal women specifically to improve sleep. And John Hopkins also noted that regular exercise helps people going through the menopause fall and stay asleep, and that athletes tend to be highly efficient sleepers generally. So I thought that was really interesting that, like, again, keeping up with exercise, you may not automatically think of that as being contributing to sleep, but this study really tied running and exercise directly to improving your sleep health.
Yeah, so it sounds like the best thing you can do is keep up a strong exercise regimen when it comes to helping with sleep and disruptions caused by menopause. On the guy's side, andropause is real, but quieter. So you do see this trend of declining testosterone in men as they age. Interestingly, increased sleep apnea risk related to andropause. And I'm sure we've all had somebody in our family who had sleep apnea and has to wear one of those masks at night when they sleep. That can be very challenging, especially for couples, I think. And then the other thing that we mentioned earlier on the men's side is prostate-related nighttime waking. So just naturally, and I think this is pretty common as you get into your 40s and beyond, you wake up more to go to the bathroom. So always something to keep an eye on there in terms of signals that you're receiving while you're sleeping, or in this case, when you're waking up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the same for women, right? You just notice that you need to get up and go to the bathroom more during the night. So again, thinking about not taking on too much hydration too late in the evening, so you're decreasing the need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. The thing here where I think is a lot of common ground between men and women when it comes to sleep as you age is just stress. And we talked about it in a previous episode, alcohol use, how that can impact you as you age. In fact, there was a 2024 study that found a dose-response relationship where REM sleep disruption began at roughly 2 standard drinks and worsened progressively with more alcohol. So that study concluded that any benefit alcohol offers for falling asleep faster is outweighed by the REM disruption it causes across the night. So there's this like idea that wine will help you get to sleep. Well, yeah, it may help you get to sleep, but it disrupts your REM cycle, which is where a lot of that important rest occurs. And that's typically, again, when you're dreaming in your sleep is during that REM cycle. So if you wake up and you had a lot of dreams, you had a lot of good REM sleep and your body was repairing itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That alcohol just, like you said, you might fall asleep, but it doesn't mean that you're having that good quality sleep like you mentioned earlier. I think the other one you mentioned as well earlier in the episode, Alex, which is just like life, kids, work, those kind of things, especially as you in the busy years where you're working and maybe climbing your career ladder, and you've then got kids who are teenagers, up later than they were when they were little. I know I used to put my kids to bed at 7 p.m. when they were little.
Yeah.
Now they're not in. We go to bed before them.
Oh my gosh, I remember those days, and it was like such a relief.
7
It was
p.m.
like
and then you have the
7
whole
p.m. and
evening.
you're like, oh, I can relax for the rest of the evening. That's
No,
fun times.
absolutely. But yeah, with kids, dogs who suddenly bark and decide they want to go out.
The older dogs, and if you've had dogs, you've experienced that.
Yeah.
Older dogs can disrupt your sleep.
Yeah, and we've got a dog who's getting up there in age, and she forgets she's been fed, she forgets she's been outside, and so and she barks like the world is ending.
Yeah, she has disrupted our sleep a time or two. I had a dog when I was younger that had, like, as it got older, it had kind of like doggy dementia and anxiety. Oh gosh, and you'd have a thunderstorm. That's when you'd really never sleep.
Poor thing.
Yeah, that can be tough.
What about where we diverge, Alex? So you mentioned some things earlier about your need for total darkness.
Right.
Alex has got a bit of an obsession with total darkness.
There's nothing wrong with ensuring
He
that
has
you're in a dark room
book
when you sleep.
balanced up against the TV to hide the tiny little red dot on the TV.
That's right. I don't like light or like LED lights filling up. They make a lot of light in the room. There's even a lamp.
A tiny, tiny dot.
There's even a lamp I unplugged because it has a little like dot on top of it, and it makes light that I can see in the room. Yeah, I admit that I have a bit of an obsession about that.
He does. And all doors have to be shut too.
Oh,
doors
yeah.
to closet, door to bathroom.
That's like
shut.
That goes back to when you're a kid, though, and they tell you that if there is a fire in the house, you need to have the door closed.
What's there going to be a fire in the closet? Like,
Well,
what's going to set a fire in the
main
closet?
door. The closet is just like, I don't want the boogeyman coming out there. Duh.
Yeah, because that's where he'd come from.
I don't know.
He's coming through the window.
I like to have doors closed. It's just, these are things that are deep rooted that you have throughout your life. What you don't like is to have any sort of relaxing sounds on.
I do not find them in the least relaxing.
Like
Alex likes
thunderstorms.
Alex like thunderstorms or like
ocean waves.
Ocean waves, like wind whistling through trees. He has all of these sounds on his alarm clock. They just keep me awake. I'm not good at falling asleep to sounds like that. And Alex has that on a program and they last for like 3-4 hours. So I'm just awake for 3 hours.
When you're gone, I play it basically all night.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and also it like drowns out any kid noise when you're going to sleep.
It's good for that in terms of drowning out other noise, but it still keeps me awake. So I'm not gonna. My daughter falls asleep with the TV on. Like, I could not do that. And in fact, we tease her because for years she fell asleep with Garfield on, and we would hear it on repeat the same episode. So that's kind of
miles from civilization.
Yeah, exactly. That's like permanently scarred on my brain. What about your bedtime routines, Alex?
What about it? What are you asking? You're asking a very open-ended question. What about my bedtime routine?
Do you have some bedtime routines that you like to follow?
I'm not sure what you're referring to that you think is so funny here. Why don't you just share with the group?
Oh my gosh. Somebody's getting grumpy.
No, I don't know what you think is so funny about bedtime routines.
Alex
I like to go to bed at a reasonable hour. Is that funny?
Everybody likes to go to bed.
No, but
different time.
Yes. So when we were doing the run streak, this was a real problem because I would be like tired by 9:30 or something and wanting to go to bed early. Especially, I was getting up earlier at like 5:30 in the morning to run, and you were not running till maybe an hour and a half after me because you work from home. So that really highlighted our differences in bedtime.
I think I came closer to your requirements around bedtime.
I do like to put my phone away. That's important.
Oh, yes, although often you still have your phone. Or like in line with the analog thing, you like are listening to meditation on your phone.
Sometimes, yeah, or like reading newspapers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but what were you finding funny about?
I was just asking you.
Oh, I thought
it wasn't anything funny, but what was funny was your reaction.
Yeah.
It was like, What are you getting at?
Yeah, I thought you were trying to. I mean, because if we were going to joke about that, it'd be much funnier if I were joking about your bedtime routine, which is like, I have to finish this crossword puzzle.
I love a crossword puzzle.
I can't put the crossword puzzle down with, 10 clues left.
Alex is a psycho. Alex will stop an episode halfway through, or he'll just stop a film after an hour. Like, who does that?
Well,
like,
that's what's so great about
no,
streaming. You can
it's
just
not.
pick it back
like,
up.
You should finish it. Like, I want to know what happens. I don't want to wait and pick it back up, and then I'm like, I've forgotten everything that happened before.
By the way, analog was great for that too. You just have a VHS. You just stop the tape and press play wherever you stop the next day.
See, I liked it when you didn't have that option. You just had to watch the episode when it was on.
Yeah, I preferred that as well, which is why sometimes I like to turn on the TV to a random show, whatever's on. So there you go. That's where we diverge when it comes to our sleep.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other thing is you can't control all those variables, right? So I think you just have to, there's some realistic wins that you can have, like consistent wake up time actually found to be more powerful than a consistent bedtime, which is interesting.
Right.
Temperature control, maybe like cutting off when your caffeine is consumed in the day, like not having a cup of coffee after 4 p.m. or whatever. But I mean, some stuff you just can't control. We can't control the dog barking.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you have it. Some discussion around sleep. We thought we'd close it off today with a myth versus reality segment. So we'll have a fun kind of fast-paced section here where we throw out a statement and we decide if it's a myth or a reality. So I'm going to skip the first one you have here because we've already discussed that one. So how about this, Abbie? Myth or reality? You can catch up on sleep on the weekend.
Well, I mean, we definitely do this sometimes. Sorry, I have a sleeping dog next to me and she's decided to get up and move now.
We did this weekend.
So we definitely catch up on sleep on the weekend. But what I think is interesting is what I mentioned earlier is that they say a consistent wake up time is much better for your sleep health than a consistent bedtime.
Yes. I agree with that. I'm a big proponent of a consistent wake.
Oh, you love a lion on the weekend. Stop lying. Okay. Alex, what about this one? Older athletes just need less sleep.
That has to be a myth. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think if anything, you probably need more sleep as you get older, right?
Right.
It's just harder. It's harder to get it.
Yeah, if that were the case, that would go against everything that we've talked about today. Are there people who think that?
I don't know, but there's some people who think that you can like survive on very little sleep. Wasn't it Margaret Thatcher who only got like 3 hours of sleep a night or something?
Leonardo da Vinci, maybe? Was he one who was like that as well?
But I think it is actually really terrible for you to be surviving on that number of hours of sleep.
Kramer on Seinfeld, he didn't sleep a lot. Okay, here's one for you, Abbie. If I'm not falling asleep instantly, something's wrong.
No, like I said, I got told about this when I did have some trouble sleeping. And more than anything, what you want to avoid is that anxiety of like, oh my God, I can't go to sleep. I'm never going to go to sleep. So
yeah,
I think it's pretty normal, right?
That gets you into a really bad. I had that when I was having problems with my blood pressure and I didn't know what was happening. Like I was like having trouble sleeping, and once I got like blood pressure medication, I was fine. So
interesting.
Yeah, that can be really bad when you get into a pattern like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I think it's easy to say, hard to do, but trying to just relax and let yourself fall asleep naturally, and that might mean that you have a bit of a delay between lying down and actually going to sleep.
So Abbie, what about this one? Menopause just means bad sleep now, nothing to do about it.
I mean, I think menopause does mean that your sleep is going to likely be impacted, but it's different for everybody, right? But I think, as we mentioned earlier, there are things that you can do about it. And I'm really interested to hear about exercise being one of those best supported interventions for improving sleep during menopause. I think there's always things that you can do and try to help you sleep better. You don't just have to white knuckle through, especially given it can last 15 years. What about this one, Alex? Melatonin, which I didn't even know about until I lived in the US. Not as
really?
common in the UK, I don't
They don't
think.
know about melatonin. And
You can't get it as in the way that you can get it
you
here.
can get anything here.
Yeah, no. But melatonin is basically harmless. Take as much as you want.
Yeah, that's not true. With melatonin, you really don't need that much of it if you're taking a supplement. And I think if you do higher doses of that, it can throw off like your natural chemicals and rhythm, and you can feel very groggy. Did you know I used to take that like every night? I can't remember if I was still doing that when I think I stopped doing that before I met you. Yeah, but I used to take melatonin every night, and it was great. Like if you took the right amount, you would fall to sleep. And
that seems crazy.
Yeah, I stopped doing it. I decided I didn't need it anymore. But yeah, you definitely don't want to take like a high dose of melatonin, right?
I used to give my kids vitamin gummies and tell them that it was melatonin.
Yeah, the old placebo effect.
Yeah, worked really well with them. I don't think I've ever taken it, or if I have, maybe only once or twice. But whenever I've been sick with the flu and taken something like night nurse, that I find like whilst it like puts me to sleep, I feel really groggy the next day.
Night nurse?
Or whatever it's called, NyQuil. It's called night nurse in the UK.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Night nurse. I learned something new today. I love me some NyQuil. I almost look forward to being sick so I can take that stuff. That's some good sleep right there.
I feel groggy next day after that.
That's okay, because it was worth it. Okay, what about this one? A good workout guarantees a good night's sleep.
Yeah, well, like we said earlier, I think this is a myth, because if you do something that's really intense and late in the evening, then generally it's not going to help you sleep. But what I will say is something like a really nice, gentle yoga stretch before bed, that I find I sleep really well after.
Yeah, same. That's it. I find that very helpful before bed.
And lastly, Alex, I feel fine on 5 hours sleep. I'm just one of those people who doesn't need 8 hours sleep.
No, that's a bit of a myth. I think those people are pretty rare. It's been proven 5 or 6 hours, I don't feel great. I think 7 hours, okay. This idea of 8 hours of sleep, I don't know that I think
it's 7 to 9.
7 to 9 is what they've said. Yeah, and there's often nights where I only get 7, especially with me waking up earlier than you and you not wanting to go to bed early. There's many nights where
I've been going to bed early recently.
I only get 7, but yeah, this idea of like, oh, I'm special, I don't need 7 or 8 hours of sleep, like those people we were mentioning earlier, Da Vinci or whoever. Like, I think that's pretty rare. It's important to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, and I think those people have just adapted to being tired, right? It doesn't mean that, like, it's an interesting argument because they don't know how they'd feel on more hours sleep. So
Yeah.
Just assuming.
Right, yeah. And how, like, what's their lifespan doing that?
100%.
I would think if you did that consistently, it might shorten your lifespan.
Yeah, I really think that. And I do think that that's where wearables have been really interesting. Like, I know a few people who've got the Oura Ring and find that really good for sleep data. And we find the same with our Garmins. Well, that's it for this episode of the Practically Fit podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the episode, please share with your family and friends or leave us a review or a comment. And if you've got a story to share about your own experience with sleep and fitness, send it over to alex@practically.fit.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention we did launch a new website this week. So we've moved to our own standalone website, no longer on Substack. So you can head out to practically.fit to comment, sign up for the website. I think it's going to be a good home for us. So excited to have our own standalone website. And if you were receiving our emails previously, you'll continue to receive them as normal, as you will have seen with the email that came through today, straight to your inbox with the podcast.
Thanks for doing that, Alex. You're such a good little guru at these things. So appreciate you getting us onto a new website and platform, and hope people enjoy it. What's going to be our topic for the next episode, Alex?
That's right. So, Abbie, we're going to talk about protein. It may be a new concept to people. Have you heard of protein before, Abbie? Before 2026?
I have heard of protein, and even now you can get it at Starbucks. You can get your Starbucks coffee, protein and juice.
I thought protein was new based on all the marketing I've been seeing.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the protein craze. We're adding protein to everything now. How important is that? Maybe we'll wrap in creatine as well. Protein and creatine.
Oh, we're going crazy.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. But until then, remember, when it comes to fitness, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be practical. We'll catch you on the next one.